Good morning, everybody. It's the 30th of April, and I just want to take a few minutes to show you around what's happening in the hoop house. Not a great deal have changed since the last video, and then I will conclude this little video with some looks at some of the spring flowers that are in bloom here. We've had some sunny weather finally. I think this is the third or fourth day in a row of nice sunshine, but we're not getting anything like warm spring weather yet. I think yesterday it did manage to get up to 18 degrees outside, but I shouldn't be complaining. I just discovered that Alberta's having more snow, so at least we're not getting any more snow, not yet anyway. Let's have a little look first at the canary in the coal mine here. As you can see, one of my canaries died an awful death. The one on the left, that's the pepper plant, and the one on the right, the tomato seedling, and the temperature out here hasn't bothered it in the least, so I guess that proves that peppers are a lot more delicate than tomatoes. I suspect, in hindsight here, which is always 20/20, if I had laid these down on the soil in one of the beds, where the soil warms up and gives off its heat at night, that the pepper might even have survived. But a couple of days after I put these out here, we had a heavy frost. Went down to minus 3 or 4 degrees or something, and the pepper plant did not like it, so I'm not bringing anything out here just yet. I'll leave them under the lights in the house, I guess, for a while longer. Lots of blossoms in my little strawberry patch, and I'm going around with my little art brush 2 or 3 times a day and making believe I'm a bumblebee, which seems to be working. I think I see a few small green ones. They aren't really developing very much yet, but I think I'm getting them pollinated. And the mystery of what happened to the pink flowering strawberries is still continuing. There's a few plants here that haven't bloomed yet, but last year I had about half and half, the ones with pink flowers and the white flowered ones in here. I don't know the name of either variety, but so far this year I haven't seen a single pink blossom. Well, the onions that I transplanted in here, whenever that was, I think less than a week ago. Of course, they haven't grown a great deal, but they have appreciated being transplanted. They have straightened right up, and the new growth is very vertical, where when I first put them in, they had flopped all over because I had just watered them and whatever. But the temperature in here hasn't bothered the onions at all, because they can tolerate quite a bit of cold, I guess. The daikon seedlings are getting quite a bit bigger. They've now, all of them I think, have 2 new true leaves. So they grow, of course, like anything else, proportional to their size. The bigger the plant gets, the faster it grows, so they're really starting to take off. Next to the daikon, that is some leeks. A year ago in the winter, probably a year ago this past February or so, just to see if it would work, I scratched out here in the cold frozen soil and put in some leek seeds, and when spring arrived they did germinate, quite a few of them here, there, and everywhere in here. And they got overcrowded in the summertime by the very large tomato plants that I grew, so they got shaded out. I was going to just dig them up and throw them out because I figured they would bolt and go to flower, and I don't know, they may do that yet. But David from Ireland on Work with Nature, excellent site. If you haven't checked him out, I'll put a link up here. He tells me that most of the reason that the second year ones would bloom and try to produce seeds is for lack of moisture. So I've transplanted them into one little area here next to the daikon, and I'm keeping them very moist. So far, no attempts at bolting, so we'll see what happens. I may get a few leeks out of this. Well, the 2 grapevines in here are finally starting to burst their buds and leave out. This is Beta. The variety is a slipskin, sort of like a Concord grape, in that same family anyway, and it's much further advanced than Somerset, S-O-M-E-R-S-E-T, which is a green seedless dessert grape, which the buds are starting to swell on it, but they're not as near as advanced as Beta is. Well, of course, want to brag here, I'll show you Beta. Should have leaves on this in the next few days, I would think, because the weather is supposed to continue sunny but cool. But in the hoop house here, it gets up into the low 30s by noontime or so every day, so they don't realize that it's a cool spring. And the peas are continuing to do very well. Last year I wasn't happy with the color of the plants. I thought they were kind of yellowish. I still got a lot of peas out of it. But so far this year, maybe a different variety or something, they look very healthy. I've had a request to talk a little bit about the plant cam over here. It's by Wingscapes. It's called a plant cam. They produce several different kinds of cameras that you can do time-lapse photography with. This one is several years old, and the newer versions have a lot more bells and whistles than this one does. But it will take either 10-second video clips or single frames of pictures. And I have it set to do one frame every hour from, I think, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's just looking down, as you can see, at the P's. You could also have it take 2 or 3 frames at a time, and you can the time span can go anywhere from taking 1 frame a minute to 1 frame a day, and a lot of different variables in between there, 10 minutes, half hour, an hour, all that sort of thing. So it's quite flexible in that regard. I think some of the newer versions probably take a better photograph. I've never quite been satisfied with the quality that this one produces, but it was around $100 5 years ago, so I'm sure the newer ones are much better. Anyway, if you have any specific questions, ask me and I'll see if I can answer it for you. Well, before we take a little look at the spring flowers, to close this video off, I just wanted to show you that I have brought my artichoke out. It survived being in the basement all winter under a lamp that I bought for it, because I wasn't expecting it to do any winter growth. I thought it would just go dormant, but for some reason, I don't know, early winter, January sometime, it started sending up leaves, so I thought I would lose it if I didn't get it under light, so I bought a grow lamp for it. Last year it was one single plant started from seed, so it was late in the year before I got any artichokes, but I did get a half a dozen or so artichokes off of it. And this year there are 3 or 4 different plants coming up from the center there. It has multiplied. And of course it's already a good size plant at the end of April, so I have hopes anyway of getting artichokes earlier, and because it's several plants in there, maybe a few more. Anyway, time will tell. Thank you very much for watching, and now just some clips of some of the spring flowers that are in bloom.